You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we've got an investigative fact.
We're on the hunt for a deadly virus in the Randomeiser.
and author John Kenneth Muir joins us for one last eagle flight.
That's all coming up in Pod 190.
Of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Don't need your sound effects, Richard.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
I have.
Well done, you. No. Well done, you.
For what? You patronising git?
Investigative.
Yes, thank you. That was tough.
I mean, well done.
Investigative is hard. But I have a more pressing question, which is, do you say 0 or O when you're saying numbers? Because I often find myself reading a phone number and leading with O, and then if I find further O's in it, I'll say 0 for some reason. Not always.
Yes, that's fun, isn't it? Yeah.
So is this 190 or 190?
Well, this would be 190, I think.
Do you?
Or it could be 0190. Couldn't it?
Oh, 0190. Oh,
I don't know. I just don't know.
My goodness. We've gone off piste here. So, anyway, look, I'm Jamie Anderson, and the man in favour of everything being zeroed is...
Oh, well, I'm Richard N. James, as they call me on Twitter.
Excellent. And oh my goodness, over there, strangely, working on a blackboard, writing out a long series of zeros and ones, is Chris Dale, also known as the Randomeister.
That's him.
Clearly he's doing something in binary. Yeah. I don't yet know what it is. Can you tell?
Well, I could take it or leave it. Do you see?
That's your binary choice
binaries.
There.
That's right, yeah. Yes or no.
Anyway, people come here for the Gerry Andersonness and they stay for the gags, and then they hear one and immediately leave. So
they leave, yes.
If you've managed to stay, Podstron, thank you. Please continue to stay. We've got some Gerry Anderson stuff coming up for you. Richard will summarise all of those Gerry Anderson-y things now.
Oh, yes, OK. Well, a little later on, we've got the third part of Ben Page's interview with John Kenneth Muir, author extraordinaire. We've got Chris Dale's Randomeiser a little later on. We've got some news, of course, because there's always something happening in the Gerry Anderson universe.
Correct.
We've got emails, tweets, and Facebook posts from our wonderful Podstrons. That's you, dear listener. And no doubt, coming up very shortly, Fab Facts.
You're absolutely right. Fab Facts will be inserted very shortly.
Right, great. Look forward to it. No, really.
Do you want to sound a bit more...
Well...
I thought we'd agreed that you actually like this now.
That's going a bit far, I think. Tolerate, I think, is the word.
Thanks, Richard. Well, maybe I might be able to change your mind this week. I've got a good feeling about today's Fab Fact. So,
okay.
Shall we go straight into it, and I'll try my best to wow you.
Good luck.
Okay, here we go. Heading for a wow.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Whether you're here for the first time or the last time, this is Fab Facts, where I've got a book of Fab Facts. I flick through the book. Richard shouts Fab at a random point to stop me flicking through the book, and then we have... Well, it's a Fab Fact, pretty much, hopefully. Is everything clear with you there, Richard James?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good. It's all quite clear with me, obviously, because I just said it all. So here we go with the flicking.
Fab!
Oh, you've arrived in slightly awkward grounds here, I would say.
Oh, not again. I'm always doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, always loitering with intent. Well, let me tell you that this concerns a one-off.
Oh, yes.
And it's not you.
Right.
A one-off with a running time of 23 minutes, approximately.
Okay.
Can
Interesting.
you tell what that is from that little clue alone?
Well, a one-off, so it's a pilot for something, is it?
Yes.
Right, okay.
It's a pilot from 1973. Does that help?
Oh, not really, no, I was only 4.
Well, you wouldn't have seen it anyway because it was never screened. The pilot we're talking about is The Investigator.
Oh, right,
Now,
yes.
you may not know about The Investigator, Podstron. Maybe you do. If you do, I'm terribly sorry. If you don't, you're about to, and I'm terribly sorry. Now, early in 1973, as things were wrapping up on the Protectors, and they were making preparations for a possible second series of UFO, which was never to be, Dad and Sylvia decided they would make another pilot episode for a supermarionation program. And they were hoping to eventually show that to their friend and colleague George Heinemann, who was the vice president of special children's programming for NBC in America. And they were obviously hoping that he would commission a full series of this wonderful new show. Now, they decided to continue their route, going down the hybrid nature of the Secret Service with puppets and real people and real settings. It was privately financed. It was all shot in Malta. I think really it was an excuse for a glorified holiday.
Yeah, fair enough.
And from the word go, the pilot was beset with problems. Inclement weather, unpredictable issues with the radio-controlled model car that was driven by the puppet characters.
Right.
And in fact, Dad was so unhappy. I was going to say so happy then.
Yes, delighted.
So unhappy with the thing, he never actually screened it to NBC or anyone else, and the project was abandoned.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. It's so sad. But you can contrast that with the fact that Dinky Toys was so full of faith and hope based on the commercial success of all the previous Anderson shows that they immediately jumped on the opportunity to produce vehicles based on The Investigator.
Okay.
It was literally the moment they heard about the project. Yeah, we'll back you on this one. Great, we'll do it.
Right.
So with a line of highly successful die-cast toys that were based on main vehicles from Thunderbird, Scarlet, Joe 90, etc., even the Secret Service and UFO, Dinky eagerly set to work preparing to launch toys based on Reg Hill's designs for the Investigator car and boat.
Yeah.
The prototypes and the dies and all that sort of thing cost thousands and thousands of pounds so they could be ready for the prototypes. Dinky were then obviously understandably disappointed when the expected series didn't materialise and wasn't even shown or pitched, and they were told it was abandoned. So they'd spent all that money, so they decided to release the toys anyway. However, not under the title of The Investigator because, well, that would be totally meaningless, wouldn't it?
What would that mean? Yes, exactly.
So, instead, in green livery with military-style decals, the car was issued in 1975 as an armoured command car designed by Gerry Anderson, while the boat was eventually launched in 1977 as a Coast Guard amphibious missile launcher, with no reference whatsoever to its connection to the abandoned Anderson project.
Dear. Well. What a shame.
There you are.
Gosh.
What a shame! All the people that put effort into that. I mean, the crew consisted of a lot of people you would already know from those days. Obviously, Dad, Reg Hill, Harry Oakes, the cameraman, David Lane and Len Walter were editing. John and Wanda Brown on the puppets. Models built by Space Models again. So, great pedigree.
Well,
but I mean, have you actually seen it?
I think I might have done, yes. I've tried to erase it from my mind, but there's something in there.
Haven't we all?
Yes.
Now, if you want to know more about this, then I can recommend you go onto our YouTube channel and search for Gerry Anderson Primers, and in there is a primer all about The Investigator, giving you more information all about the total disaster of a pilot show that it was. But it's got some familiar things in there. Peter Dineley's voice as the titular investigator, the alien.
Right. Yes.
So, there's something you'll know. Shane Rimmer voices, Sylvia voices in it. Sylvia wrote the script. So, you might have expected it did a little better, but...
well, the thing is, no one wants to make a flop, do they? That's the thing. I'm sure they applied themselves, committed themselves, and wanted to do a good job and make something wonderful. And sometimes that just doesn't happen, does it?
And it definitely did not happen here. So, There you go. If you want to watch the investigation in full, you can check out the Lost Worlds of Gerry Anderson DVD set. It's also streaming in, I think, the US and the UK on Amazon. So go and enjoy yourself there. Or maybe you won't enjoy yourself, but it's only 23 minutes, so it's not a huge time commitment, and it's kind of funny and quirky and weird. So enjoy that. There you go.
Nice.
Unexpected, but that, I think, brings us to the end of this week's
Dinky Facts!
Oh, you were Dinky. Well, I hesitated because
one strand out of a rather interesting story. What were you going to go for?
You were going to go investigative fact.
Yeah, that investigative fact.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that?
No, I was very happy with your Dinky, you do carry on. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. It's pod number 190. 190.
So many.
Now, I've been talking to the podstrons.
Have you?
Yes. And next week, I'm going to be letting you know what they've enjoyed most from the last 190 podcasts, their favourite interviews, their favourite randomisers, and also what they'd like to see from our forthcoming 200th episode. Now, do let me know if there's still time. Just drop us a line, podcast@gerryanderson.com. Let us know what you might, in an ideal world, I'm not saying it's going to happen, what you might like to see for our 200th podcast. I mean, we've got to do something, haven't we?
I mean, if we don't, it'll be a bit weird.
Yeah. So let us know. We've still got a few weeks to go, so a little bit of time to think about it. But in the meantime, we have had some emails to podcast@gerryanderson.com. For example, Caleb says, "Hi, podcast people. We're called Podstrons, but what are the hosts called?" He says. Yeah.
I don't
Careful.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "I thought I'd share how I listened to the podcast. Firstly, I'm probably your youngest listener. I'm 15 years old and I love Thunderbirds. I often wake up really early at 4 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. So, as a fallback, I listen to your podcast."
Oh,
well, that's nice.
A cure for insomnia, the Gerry Anderson podcast.
He says, "I love the introduction music, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I listen to the news, but I never buy anything, unfortunately, because I'm saving for a Cybertruck."
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He says, "One of my favourite sections has to be Fab Facts."
Excellent. We love listeners like this. You're a top podstron.
He did say he's not been getting much sleep, so I can only blame it on that. He says, "It's so interesting hearing random, fun Fab Facts. My overall favourite fact was from a while ago. The fact was about Thunderbirds vehicles in a Star Trek comic. I will admit that I do skip the main segment. Even at 4 a.m, I'm lazy. Sorry, I like the randomizer, but I haven't seen any Thunderbirds in there yet." He says it could just be me managing to miss them. Yeah, I mean,
I think you have to. We had one last week or the week before, I think.
Yeah. I haven't seen any other shows other than Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, so I often don't quite know what's going on. But
you're not the only one.
Yeah. Caleb says, "I've worked out that there is a show called Terrorhawks, and a bunch of live-action space ones, and a supercar one. I probably should Google it, but once again, I'm lazy. He says, in passing, overall, I enjoy the podcast and encourage you to keep going."
Oh, well, thank you for your encouragement. Overall, I'd say that's quite a good review.
Absolutely, yeah. We had one from James as well. He says, "Hi team, sorry, I was a bit late listening to the podcast calendar-wise," he says. "Why not an advent calendar? Food for thought, all the best from James." Be nice, isn't it?
We have looked into an advent calendar, actually, but they're surprisingly expensive to originate, to do all the sort of design for and get everything. Otherwise, you just end up putting a card sleeve over random Christmas chocolates, and that doesn't seem very Anderson to me. I feel like they should be chocolates that are, Thunderbird vehicles and that kind of thing.
Oh,
so,
crikey, that'd be lovely, yeah.
See, it's definitely on the list, but we haven't managed to find a way to do it quite yet.
Now, we've been talking over recent weeks about Hannah's exploration of Terrorhawks, you might remember. And she sent us another update saying, "Hi, Jamie and Richard. It took me a long time, but I finally decided to watch all 3 seasons of Terrorhawks. For me, it was like stepping into the unknown world of Anderson, as I have never seen or heard the show growing up. I didn't know what the results would be. I loved the music, the special effects, and the vehicles were fantastic. What a design. The first few episodes I had no problem with, but the real show stealers for me were the Zeroids.
Yes.
I love Windsor Davis. He always makes me laugh. He was brilliant as Zero. There are some episodes I would prefer to watch more than some of the others, but those Zeroids are the reason that I keep returning to Terrorhawks." She says, "In my previous message, I got a little overexcited, but I've settled down now, and I'll look forward to hearing the audio adventures soon." And that's from Hannah. Well, Hannah, we love you for your excitement.
Yes.
And we love to hear how you're doing in the Terrorhawks universe.
Absolutely. Let us know how you get on with the audios when you get there and how you feel about that. Because
yes.
Yeah, I think they are a nice continuation of the series, but they definitely take it in a new direction, so you can look forward to that, Hannah.
Yeah, sure. Paul Hyde says, "Hi guys, just to let you know that when I listen to the podcast and I hear Paul Hyde read out, my ears prick up thinking it's me until you say Paul Hyder from China. So I know it's not me." Oh, he does say, in case you read this email, you need to say Paul Hyde from the Isle of Wight. Then I know that it's me.
Right.
Okay, so this is from Paul Hyde in the Isle of Wight, not Paul Hyder in China.
Probably we should say Isle of Wight, Paul Hyde, then. Because otherwise you might hear Paul Hyde, you see what I mean?
Crikey, I see what you mean. But it does say, I think that I'm ahead of him on mentions anyway. So, well, you are now, because there's another one. So that's good. And finally, now, we do like to consider ourselves a bit of a public service broadcast podcast, don't we? So Terry has got in touch. Yeah, what we do now. He says, did you know about the new roundabout rules that come in this week? With the new highway code, it means more safe rides for cyclists and horses in the UK. So that's good news.
I did not know that. What is the rule?
I think it's just stay back, give them lots of room, and don't try and overtake them.
Oh.
You just stay behind them and give them space.
I got stuck behind a horse on a walk this morning.
Okay, yeah. How did that
very
go?
Narrow bit of footpath. Well, the nice lady eventually pulled over and let me go past. It was very nice of her.
That's not much of a story, is it? Anyway, yeah, okay, thanks for that. Anyway, if you have anything else you would like to contribute, any comments, reviews or thoughts, merch ideas, send them in to podcast@gerryanderson.com and I'll read them out next time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. Would you like
Thanks.
some sort of news to tide you over until we do the next bit?
Oh, that would be nice. Have you got some?
I'll try and make some up.
Brilliant.
So I'll do that kind of now. It's the Gerry Anderson news. News. Why aren't you saying it, Richard James? It's very disconcerting.
I just thought I'd see how you coped without me.
I feel very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, no, it's good. It was good.
Well, I wasn't doing it full-fledged because I was expecting you to join in. Anyway,
yeah.
Farewell Friday is coming back, which means that some things are going away, ironically. So
right.
every 2 weeks from this Friday, we will be bidding farewell to some t-shirt designs to make way for some new bits and pieces. We've got all sorts of marvellous goodies coming up over the next few months, so we need to make some space, so keep an eye out on the email and newsletter for that. You will have also seen some new Thunderbirds and a new Space 1999 t-shirt design, some very cool emblems that have been beautifully distressed.
Nice.
Now, the documentary, Richard James, is not far away now. We are, in fact, hang on, how far away are we? 2.5 months away from release?
Yeah, great.
We wondered if you'd be interested in a scrapbook made up of all the bits of archive research we've discovered during our time making the documentary. So, Podstrons, would you be interested in a Gerry Anderson A Life Uncharted scrapbook, which would contain images and letters and notes from his personal and professional life from across 6 decades, or more in fact, from his entire life, so 8 and a bit decades. I would really like to know if you'd see it. It'll include stuff that does make into the documentary as well as lots of stuff that doesn't. Do let us know. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com.
Well, I'm a yes.
Well, there you go. That's one sold already.
That's one.
In fact, we'll give you one.
I didn't say goodbye.
Of course. On a similar note, if you are an Anderson insider, you will have seen the film poster for Gerry Anderson Life Uncharted, which has been previewed for the insiders. You can sign up on the Anderson Insiders for as little as £1 a month to get all sorts of extra content and behind-the-scenes information and hear about things before everyone else. So pop along to shop.gerryanderson.com and you can get on there and look on the menu and find a way to join Anderson Insiders for as little as £1 per month.
Nice.
Monster from the Deep is the next audio title. It's Stingray, Monster from the Deep.
Is it?
Oh. Yes. Available for pre-order very, very soon. Adapted by our lovely podcast producer, Ben Page. And it's based on Stingray and the Monster, the 1966 John Thaden novel. It might be 65.
Right.
Can't quite remember now. Anyway, very cool. Mark Silk, Nick Briggs, Wayne Forrester, Jules DeYoung, Ben playing some aquamphibians in there as well, as last time. It's a great listen, and it will be available soon. Hardback book and the CD version and download available to pre-order from bigfinish.com.
Nice.
Finally, for this one, We are looking at doing this live podcast recording on the 15th or the 16th of April.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see.
Goodness me, do pay attention. It's to coincide with Stand By for Action, the Gerry Anderson concert at the Birmingham Symphony Hall. So it will take place in Birmingham or somewhere very, very close by.
Okay.
But I want to know, Podsterons, if you're going to attend, I'm assuming you'd like to do it on the same day as the concert. Would you like to do a live podcast recording, say, late morning on the 16th? Or would you prefer that we made it more of an evening affair on the 15th so you can stay over and have a jolly? I don't know what you prefer, but do let us know. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com. Your votes will be counted and then enacted, so choose wisely.
It was great fun last time, wasn't it? Last time we did a live podcast at the Space Centre.
It was, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
It was most enjoyable, so I would love to recreate that. We'll let you know more when we can. I suspect it will be ticketed, but the ticket price will be pretty nominal, just to pay for the venue, basically. And maybe we can arrange some sort of, not cheese and wine, but some sort of, biscuits and bread. Get together afterwards.
Cup of tea in a plastic cup.
No, not a plastic cup, a paper cup.
Bring your own mug.
Bring your own mug. Exactly. There you go.
Perfect.
Well, that's exactly what we'll do. But email us podcast@gerryanderson.com and let us know 15th or 16th. And also let us know if you're going to come to the concert, because if you're going to come up for the live podcast, you might as well come for the concert as well, surely.
Yes, good point.
Yes. Anyway, look, that is probably the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news.
In fact, it wasn't probably. It actually was the end. I don't know why I said probably.
Probably the end. You can't think of anything else.
Correct.
Fair enough. Now, I've been looking at our Facebook group recently. Lovely bunch of people. For example, Roger's been sharing pics of his Starcruiser 1 model. Very interesting.
Oh.
If you don't know about Starcruiser 1, Jamie, tell us about Starcruiser.
So, Starcruiser, I believe they thought of a series idea around the time it would have been post Space 1999 Series 2. Dad was working alongside Keith Shackleton, his longtime friend and business partner, on Gerry Anderson Productions and Gerry Anderson Merchandising. They pitched Starcruiser around as a TV series, didn't get picked up, so they turned it into a comic series instead of a comic strip. And there was a model kit that Airfix did, and David Jeffries, I think, was the artist who took on and wrote and drew Starcruiser. And it ran in, I think, looking for quite a long time, 70 plus issues, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go.
Great.
How's that?
Nice.
Was that as much as you were expecting, or too much?
A bit more than I was expecting, to be honest.
Okay, good.
I thought you'd be quick and to the point. But
sorry.
That's right.
Fail.
Also, Willow's been hosting her regular Saturday night quizzes, of course, and Luna's continued with her live streams, including recently a little bit of Space Precinct.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Which episode?
Now, I can't remember. I wasn't in to watch it, I'm afraid.
Oh, rubbish.
Sorry about that. We were out. Robert Monk says that for those that like to own physical copies of things Big Finish, they're clearing their warehouse of their CD stock and have an absolute bargain on the Terrahawks audios. So, I don't know how long that's going to be there, so if you're listening to this on Monday, I'd get in there quick. All 3 copies, he says, for the rock-bottom price of £25, and that includes the digital download copies too. That's all right, isn't it, for 3 series of Terrahawks?
That's amazing. Go grab it.
Rebecca Andrews says, this is a bit random, but I currently work in retail and today served a customer who shared his name with the actor who provided the voice of Scott Tracy. That'd be Shane Rimmer, of course.
It would be.
He said,
I didn't know whether you were testing me or you were building that up for anticipation.
He said he hadn't heard of his famous named twin. He was quite young, maybe in his 20s, but I suggested he Google Thunderbirds and check out this podcast. Absolutely.
So you should.
Jeff Tilley says 8 years ago, the official Gerry Anderson page was celebrating 10,000 likes, and as of today, numbers have grown to 78,529 people who follow the page, including 33 of my friends. So he says it doesn't hurt to share links. Who knows what we will see in another 8 years' time?
Absolutely. 7 million.
Why not? Something to aim for, isn't it? Mark Perkins. I don't know if you watch Pointless, Jamie. Here in the UK, it's a sort of an evening game show where you have to guess in categories items that the fewest people have mentioned when they ask the question to the audience and so on.
Beautifully pitched there.
Well, he says that there was a well-known Colonels on a recent edition of Pointless. The best answer on the board Only 7 people out of 100 knew it. So I'm going to give you these questions, Jamie. So here's the first one. US Air Force Colonel, who was the second person to set foot on the moon. Who was that?
Wasn't that terrible? I'm not sure, actually.
Come on.
No, I don't know. Can't remember.
You know the second man on the moon, surely.
But you put me under pressure, and now I can't remember.
Well, it's Edwin Buzz Aldrin, of course.
Of course.
Marlon Brando portrayed Colonel Kurtz in this 1979 film directed by Francis Ford Coppola. What was it?
Apocalypse Now?
Yes, Colonel Mustard is one of the characters in which board game?
Cluedo?
Yeah, and finally, Commander-in-Chief of Spectrum in the Gerry Anderson TV series, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons.
Excellent. It was Colonel Purple. I mean,
There
Colonel
you go.
White.
Of course it was. And only 7 out of 100 people asked knew the answer.
Wow, there we go. And I'm sure all of them got Buzz Aldrin, which I had a massive brain fart over.
Yeah. Alex Pass suggests a special guest for Standby for Action. How about Nicholas Briggs in full costume and makeup as Titan? Come on, he says, that alone is worth the price of admission, surely.
Well, sadly, he's already attending as the Hood, so...
Now, Ian Allen has found something for you. He says there's a number plate up for sale on a well-known market site, and I thought Jamie might like this, maybe put an offer in, as he's a big fan of the series, and he can put it on his own vehicle or maybe on a tractor on his farm. Now, Jamie, I know you've just ordered a new car, haven't you? You mentioned that to me the other day.
Yes.
So, how about this for a number plate?
I know
is
exactly
available?
what's coming.
It's J90 EYN. Joe 90 EYN. How about that?
Well, I'm not sure about the "ein" at the end, but
yeah. Well, and Earl
I'm
Black
okay,
says
thanks.
he says the more Jamie says he hates Joe 90, the more we know he loves it.
Is that how things work?
That's the way it is, I think. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I really hate Sunday roasts. You see, does that work?
Very good, very good. Now, we know that Tom Holden has really raised the bar with his quickfire fives
When
recently.
you say
so, Jamie,
raised,
well, I thought, time for me to have a go myself again. So, are you ready for these very special quickfire fives? Right, Jamie, these are based on 5 of Gerry Anderson's different TV series. Would you rather Space Precinct have a new podcast co-host who turns out to be a baddie within the first 10 minutes, or help Orin and Romek clean up after the Zwellin?
I might get a nice chat with Orin and Romek while we're doing that, so I'm going to go for the latter.
That'd be fun. Thunderbirds. Would you rather have to straighten all the palm trees after Thunderbird 2's launch, or have Richard James pick you up from the airport in his Parker the Chauffeur outfit?
Oh, well, seeing as I know the second one is a really lovely thing to happen, the second, please.
It almost did happen, didn't it?
It actually did happen, yeah. You picked me up from Birmingham Airport.
I remember wearing a hat, at least. UFO. Would you rather have to sew up the holes in all those string vests, or empty the ashtrays after one of Shadow's top secret meetings?
Well, I feel like I get the ashtrays done pretty quick, but they're horrible, so thanks for that.
Disgusting. Stingray. Would you rather scrape the barnacles off Stingray while it's in dry dock, or polish King Titan's throne?
Well, Stingray's cool. I might get a look inside, so barnacles for me.
And finally, Secret Service. Would you rather translate Father Unwin's Sunday service into Unwinese, or go back in time and convince Lou Grade to order another 13 episodes?
Oh, back in time, 13 more Secret
Would
Service
you?
obs, yeah.
Ah, there you go. Well done. That was nice.
Yeah.
What would you like to have seen in those extra 13 episodes then?
Oh, I think I would
Just
have
more of the
seen
same, or?
that Bishop give Father Unwin this crazy, amazing vehicle rather than the yellow thing.
Fair enough.
Rather than Gabriel, and give him some more cool tools and get him into some darker, dingier scrapes. Maybe he teams up with Joe 90, and sadly Joe doesn't make it through the mission.
maybe that could happen.
Yeah,
Yes.
who knows?
We
All
know
that
you
sort
love
of
it, really.
stuff.
Yeah. Good. There we are. That's this week's Quickfire 5. Well done, Jamie. Very good.
Thank you very much. I quite like that one, actually. That was good.
Yeah, good. That's nice.
Would you mind if I brought an interview guest in?
No, please do. That's absolutely fine. Yeah,
well,
sure.
he's not my guest, as you may have noticed in the last 2 episodes, 188 and 189. It's John Kenneth Muir. Well, he's the Space 1999 fan and author, writer of all sorts of books about Doctor Who and Blake Seven and all sorts of other things. However, he's also done Space 1999, which was the subject of his first book. He's done those novels, short stories, and his own original web series, as we've talked about, I think, in the last couple of weeks. So it's time for the final part. That's 3 of 3 with Ben's chat with John Kenneth Muir.
So tell me about you started off making these films on video,
Right.
and then you became the nonfiction writer master, one might almost say, with all this writing.
That's very nice.
And then you went into going back to your roots a little bit, doing some fictional things, including a Space 1999 fiction,
Right.
which we should talk about too. So tell me about how you kind of moved back into that world of fiction from nonfiction.
Well, in 1999, my wife and I traveled to Los Angeles for the Breakaway convention there, so that we would all be together with other Space 1999 fans on the night the moon was to break out of Earth's orbit. And it was there that I met a number of amazing talents. What was so stunning to me was to realize that my journey was really other people's journey, that I met other writers who were inspired by Space 1999. I met model makers inspired by Space 1999. I met this incredible person named Matteo Latosa, a musician, a composer, a writer, a teacher, all these things, who was pursuing the license to write Space 1999 stories. And he asked me if I would write one. And it was like warp speed. Yeah, yes. Right? I would have knocked him over by saying yes so fast. And then we just began to talk about, well, what would that look like? Yeah. What would that story look like? And
did you have a story in mind from the beginning? Was there one like in the back of your brain from when you were a kid watching the shows?
I always have had like these sort of adventures in my mind. I don't know that the Forsaken may have had elements of that, but I think what happened there was Matteo was really looking to sort of do year 1 stories, year 2 stories, and then year 3 stories, and bridge stories. And I said, well, let me do a bridge story. Let me do like the different, what happened between year 1 and year 2. Now, in real life, we all know the production,
right.
All the complications of a production the size of Space 1999, and everybody with their ideas, let's change this, let's do that. But, in universe, why did this happen? All these changes occurred. What was the reason? So I said, well, let me write that story, because again, going back to a kid, that's the kind of story I would want to read. I mean, to me, this was real. To me, Space 1999 was real. I would want to know, well, what happened to Victor? Why did they move underground? Why do they suddenly have laser cannons now?
Right.
And it didn't seem unreal to me that would happen. It seemed like, you've been out in space. I'm sure you've scavenged stuff. I mean, you've had you got all this stuff. Use it to defend yourself. So it's like to start like put together those pieces in a realistic way that takes the universe as a real universe and starts to explain it. And then also, I think, to kind of explain the difference thematically between year 1 and year 2. Because the thing I became obsessed with, and what The Forsaken deals with, is that idea, the episode Space Brain. I'm obsessed with Space Brain. I'm just going to tell you that right now. That's the Soap Suds episode.
Yes.
I love it, though. I love that episode. And I think I mentioned in the Trexperts episode, the podcast, the thing that gets me about it is at some point in that episode, the nuclear charges malfunction, and the whole plan that the brain and the Alphans have worked on together, fails because of some malfunction. I think that can't be random.
Yeah.
Something wanted to kill the brain. Something wanted to use alpha to kill the brain. So that became my story. What that became the background to my story.
Whatever force it is that's guiding them on their odyssey might have some sort of other intentions.
Exactly. And maybe it's not one to the Alphans' benefit.
Yeah, that's really intriguing.
I mean, to me, that fascinates me. I know I become hinged and obsessed on ideas like that. I watch and I think, why did that happen? And I love that it didn't tell us, because I don't think it needed to tell us. It wasn't necessarily pertinent to that story, but it became a detail that I had to understand or come up with a rationale for. And I just love that. But the idea that I got, I mean, Space Brain makes it very clear that organism, that entity, is regulating, monitoring some huge, vast amount of space. And if it's dead, that's not happening anymore. And then I thought, that explains year 2. That explains year 2. That's why so many aliens need resources from Alpha. That explains sort of the weird and wild essence of year 2. It's like that control, that regulation is gone. So that kind of became the background of the story for me, and something like the whole universe fit together. I mean, granted, that's my explanation. People can ignore that. Yeah, but that in my head, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's interesting how this show triggers a sense of scale in your mind. For me, it was Mission of the Darians.
Oh, I love that.
Where you see that huge episode, or that huge spaceship that they encounter.
Right.
And you just go, it's so vast, and there's a matte painting where they look out and there's a forest inside the spaceship, and it's...
That still astonishes me. That episode just blows my mind. I cannot believe. I feel like there's more than one matte painting. Like the real sets, the matte paintings, the miniature. Just think, how did they do that on a budget? Mm-hmm. How did they create this? It creates this whole world.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that episode
and the same
is
with Space Brain. You know, an episode that doesn't have as much on screen other than a lot of soap suds, but it's still that kind of writing that triggers that bigger universe out there.
Right.
Something that Doctor Who did really well too.
Right. But Space 1999 for me, and I love Doctor Who. Obviously, I wrote a book about Doctor Who, but Doctor Who, I always say you have to like tune your mind to the level like of Doctor Who, like because there's certain things you have to overlook. The thing about
Classic Who in particular.
Classic Who, yes. Thank you for that's exactly right. But like Space 1999, like the visual representation of it was so astonishing. That's why I said it was like instantly photoreal. It's like this is like Peary.
Yeah.
Where the heck did that come from? Where did Peary come from?
Yeah.
And that I've never seen anything like that.
No.
And still, now it was in Titan AE. If you've watched the movie Titan AE, they have a planet that is sort of an homage to Peary.
Right.
But I mean, the fact that Peary, the set and the miniature look the same, so connected, it feels like a real place, but like a place no one had ever imagined before.
Yeah.
Just stunning. Not to put down Doctor Who. I mean, obviously, it was dealing with much, tighter budgetary restrictions and such. Yeah,
definitely. So, is your novel, your Space 1999, standalone, or is it part of a series that you're doing?
So, it's part of this Powys Media line of Space 1999 stories. There's an episode, right? See how I think. There's a book about like Balor's return.
Right.
There's the second book I did, which is The Whispering Sea. That's another bridge story. That one bridges the Metamorph and the Exiles to explain how did Maya go from being alone and crying to being like, oh, I'm the science officer and I'm wearing a uniform.
Right. Yeah.
So and now I'm in love with Tony Verdeschi. Well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
I mean, you can read them as standalones, I think. I don't think you need to read one to understand the other. I mean, the continuity is such that they don't contradict each other. For sure, Matteo is absolutely fastidious about making sure that that's the case. But he doesn't, you don't need to have read the previous one to read mine, or you don't have to have read mine to read the next one, so to speak.
Yeah. And we definitely should take this opportunity to plug your web series too.
Oh, thank you.
Tell me a little bit about it and where people can find it, if it's available to watch.
Yeah, so that The House Between is what it's called, and it aired on VO from 2007 to 2009, 21 episodes, and it is about these 5 strangers who are very different, who wake up in a house and don't know where they are. And they soon find out where they are after the first season, and that it's this sort of smart house that accesses the multiverse. And the idea there is that if you want something that you can't have, the house with its artificial intelligence, which is Alar, the household Alar, based on Greek or Latin rather, it produces it by pulling it from the other multiverse. Like, so if you don't have a can of soda and you want a can of soda, it'll pull that from a parallel reality and it'll appear here.
Interesting.
So it's all about sort of quantum reality and physics. And so it's about these individuals with their different stories who at first see the smart house as a trap, and they see it as sort of a sanctuary. And then they start dealing with like the larger universe, like other realities interfacing, because obviously the problem there is if someone is like ripping something from another universe for your use, then it's going to be missing somewhere else. That's one thing. But the house can conjure any reality for these people. And then there are things outside the house, outdwellers who want to get in the house to control that technology.
Okay.
So again, super low budget. We had a great time making it. I loved writing it. The actors are great, but we were talking, I mean, listen, I'm not made of money. It was, $500, an episode, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before we kind of had to stop. It's like, I don't have, now I have a kid. I don't have any money to do this.
Right.
So they were all on VO. We had the good fortune to be on when there was the writer's strike of 2008.
Right.
So we got covered by some like big, websites and things like that.
Yeah.
And we were nominated for best web production.
Oh, wow.
And we lost by less than 100 points to like a Star Trek production.
Oh,
it was
wow.
like a Star Trek of Men and Gods, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the next year we were nominated again. We didn't win, but hey, it was great to be nominated.
Yeah.
The episodes are all available on YouTube at this point.
Okay.
So because I don't think they're still available on VO. They sort of went out of circulation there.
Right.
But people still remember it. People still love it. So I hope people will come back to it. We've recorded the fourth season of it. We won't call it the fourth season necessarily. We'll call it something like The House Between Quantum Sphere or something like that. Because really, it's a point of access where anybody can enter it. You don't have to have watched
seasons
1 through 3 to get it. It explains sort of what's happening in its own self-contained universe. I'm writing the 5th season of it, and we'll record that in May or June of this year.
Wow.
And it's great to have the original producers, the cast back to do it. It's a labor of love. Like everybody who's involved with it just loves it. But it's black and white. It's low budget, but it's a lot of fun. So we're really excited to see what the next step in that journey, where that will take us.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of taking a bigger picture overview of the whole thing. So, you know a lot about Space 1999 and Gerry Anderson stuff in general. How do you think that fits into the kind of schema of sci-fi fantasy, and also how does that look going forward? As we move, we're long past 1999.
Right. I always say 1999 is not an expiration date. Yeah. That's what I say about Space 1999, because it isn't. And if you look at UFO and Space 1999 and Journey to the Far Side of the Sun in particular, those are the ones I know best. And I think that they are so far ahead of their time. I think that, in a sense, they had a real disadvantage because, like I said, it's the shock of the new. I don't think people really understood what they were looking at. Mm-hmm. In terms of those programs. Star Wars came out as Space 99 was ending and obviously sent the genre in an entirely different direction. But what Gerry Anderson was doing there, it was thought-provoking. It was intrinsically about who we are as human beings. This idea that wherever we go, resources are going to be limited. Space travel is expensive. That's not something that's ever said on Star Trek.
Right, yeah.
The reality of space adventuring is the opportunities are few and far between and very expensive, right?
Right, sure.
And it was the idea of us going there and that we would take with us all of our psychological problems and fears and anxieties, and that those would impact the way we journey. And again, love Star Trek. Star Trek, though, is we've grown up. Mm-hmm. We don't have those things anymore. And when we go into space, we go as, the grown-ups. And look what your planet's doing. Well, we outgrew that 100 years ago. We don't eat meat anymore, or whatever it is. Yeah. Or we don't have petty nationalism anymore, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think that things like UFO and Space 1999 and Journey to the Far Side of the Sun tell us, I think, about the human condition, that it's not going to be so easy to put those things down.
Yeah. But it's a bridge to that optimistic future.
It is, absolutely. And I don't think that these shows are depressing, or I don't think they're against human nature. I don't think they're saying we're terrible people. I think what they're saying is we're human beings and we struggle. And that's kind of who we are, and that's okay. We can still do these things.
There's a kind of honesty to that.
There is a kind of honesty to it. It's like, you don't have to take away my flaws for me to be a hero. Right. I can, like Commander Koenig, I would say, in some episodes, he's just pissy. He gets so pissy with his, with his staff, and so you can just tell, he's in a bad mood.
Somebody made his coffee wrong, and he was off for the rest of the day.
Exactly. But it's like, wow, now at 52, I realize, like, Yeah, I've had bosses like that. Like bosses who I think are great, but like don't talk to them at 8 a.m. You know what I'm saying, right? Let them get that cup of coffee before you talk.
Yeah.
You know, there's something very real and optimistic in that realness, I think, in something like Space 1999 or UFO that I don't think people wanted to see in the 1970s, especially in the mid-70s. And you can ask yourself, why didn't they want to see it? Well, maybe it's because they had a diet of silent running, zero population growth, Logan's Run, Soylent Green, the Omega Man,
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
No Blade of Grass. It's like, and then along comes Space Time. It's like, oh my God, I'm so depressed.
Right.
Don't do this to me.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Star Wars comes along and it's so optimistic and it's like, obviously, Space 1999, incredibly provocative, but was able to be viewed as being part of that first aspect, and people were hungering for something else at that point. I think now it's different. I think that people want those alternative visions. I think that people want more realism in what they're doing and in what they're watching in terms of science fiction. I mean, if you look at something like Firefly, where there are no aliens, right? Or The Expanse, which, again, very realistic. And that's one of the things that Space 1999 does so well. As I said, that it's like they're worried about things like fuel consumption. Will we make orbit? You got to put on a spacesuit. If you go back and you watch Battlestar Galactica in 1978, they have their Egyptian helmets, but no pressure suits.
Right.
That you can see. I guess maybe in one episode they did have like some sort of shear something under there.
Something
maybe.
Or other, yeah.
But it's like, okay. So, but still, what do you do for atmosphere if you breach the cockpit? Even going so far as having those little spray cans on the Eagles in Space 99, it's like, oh, we have a breach. Let's,
It's a long way from the oxygen pills in Fireball XL5.
Right, exactly. So there's this realism there. There's this, like, these are the nuts and bolts of space travel. And I think people are interested in a world where that's the beginning, where that's where we start.
Yeah.
But then the great thing about Space 1999 was that it had the other end of it. Like, that's where we start, but now look how far we can imagine.
Right.
We can imagine Peary. We can imagine Dragon's Domain. We can imagine the Space Brain. We can imagine all of these things, that is different. We're not going to have a recurring villain every week. The Cylons aren't always chasing us. And, we're not meeting the Klingons again.
Right.
And so it's like every week you're like, what the hell is this? Something new, something different, something shocking.
Yeah.
And I really liked that because I think there was a true ambition of imagination. Each story, like you said, is like a little film. It's like a perfect universe unto itself, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't really have to know, which side are the Cardassians on? Not the Kardashians, but the Cardassians. Or who's allied with the Dominion this week? It's like there are these people who are very human and very recognizable, and they're confronting something they don't understand. And they have to take those things inside of them.
Yeah.
Those psychological foibles, but also psychological strengths, and deal with them because they don't really have anything. They don't have replicators. They don't have warp drive. And so they have to deal with all those things based on who they are.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a paradigm that I think people are more interested in today. I mean, I see it of a piece of being something more like the X-Files or more like the Expanse, things like that. And I mean, I think too that, we had to outgrow Star Trek's dominance over the culture.
Yeah.
I love Star Trek. I'm not saying its influence is bad, but I'm saying Space 1999 was like the first show after Star Trek, like first space adventure kind of show that challenged it.
Right.
It was the first one. And I think that comes with so many challenges because let's face it, fans are a very proprietary bunch. Yes. We like our teams, we like our shows, and if something threatens that, if someone is out there saying, I'm going to make a Star Trek movie but we haven't made it yet, but now all the attention comes over to this British import that has fantastic special effects and Emmy Award-winning television stars, well, attention then goes away from Star Trek and it comes over to this.
Right.
So I understand why people didn't like it, but I mean, the criticism was cruel and wrong and ignorant,
Yeah.
and it's like, and obviously there's room enough for Star Trek and Space 19.
Of course, yeah.
Why don't we have both? Isn't that the better universe?
Yeah, it's
where
the
we have
better
both?
universe that we want to live in.
Exactly. But now I think we very clearly have that because of how television changed.
Right.
We're not stuck to the 3 networks anymore. We're not,
Or even our laser discs.
right.
Where it's hard to imagine that now when you can click almost anywhere. Shout Factory, stream Space 1999. You can find it on Pluto TV. It's all over the place in the U.S. for anybody who wants to find it.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of new fans have discovered it. And they're discovering it without that sort of umbrella of agony and oppression, which has lasted over the series. And maybe for the first time, really taking it on its own terms.
Yeah.
And, maybe they've seen Farscape. Maybe they've seen Firefly. Maybe they've seen The Expanse. And so for them, it's not this world where Star Trek is everything.
Right.
It's a world where, I like Star Trek, and then look at this thing over here, and then look at this thing here. What is this that I just found?
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that's great. So I think that Space 1999 and the works of Gerry Anderson are going to be remembered as being sort of in this golden age where ideas and artistry were paramount, and it wasn't yet franchise blockbuster filmmaking. Because I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but I know certainly for me as a 52-year-old, I'm beginning to feel the limits of that. I can't tell you I garnered any enjoyment from Rise of Skywalker, and I grew up with Star Wars and loved it.
Sure.
I feel very much it's been strip mined. That Star Wars. There's so much Star Wars, so much. It's like, wow, the worst thing to do is to get what you want, and then to be force fed it.
Right. Yeah.
To where you're going to explode
ad nauseum,
right? And even the Marvel Universe, nothing lasts forever, and it's riding high now. But there's just so much of it, and you have to ask yourself, are ideas and artistry paramount there, or is it something else? And you go back to something like UFO or Space 1999 or Soylent Green or Silent Running or Zero Population Growth, and the ideas are just scintillating, and they're first and foremost. And it's not about, I know this character and they did this and this previous thing and they're connected to this character through here.
Right.
It's just the ideas. It's just the ideas. And I have to believe, as a culture, at some point, just like we got tired of Westerns.
Sure.
We got tired of musicals. They didn't speak to who we are anymore. We're going to get tired of these sort of cinematic universes where everything is sort of this very incestuous connection between characters, and it's all kind of a soap opera. And instead we're going to say, well, what are the human truths, and can I experience stories about those truths and about what I think the future might look like, and not just special effects and set pieces and things like that, and
inspiring people to move towards their own future. Whether that's an engineer at NASA, or someone who writes books about Space 1999, or someone who sits here and records interviews for podcasts about Space 1999.
Absolutely,
that's something that we each chart on our journey, and we explore that because of shows like Space 1999.
I agree. And, I remember one review that really hurt my feelings at some point a long time ago. They said, this is a really thorough and detailed book, but the author was obviously very young when he watched the show, so he's only enamored it because he was young when he experienced it. And I thought, that's just a way, that's just like sort of, diminishing everything I said.
Right.
Just by saying so basically my viewpoint doesn't count because I encountered it when I was young.
Right.
So come on, but I've always thought about that, and that's why I do go back to Space 1999 and I test it. I say, is there what was I right? Is there something there? And I can tell you, I don't know what I'm going to say at age 62. We should do a podcast then in 10 years. It hasn't flunked the test yet. Almost 50 years on, it hasn't.
Yeah.
To me, there's still something mysterious and wonderful and terrifying about it that obsesses me.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool. John, if people want to find you or your books, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thank you. Yes, so you can find me, of course, through Amazon.com. All my books are there.
Yep.
Just do a search, John Kenneth Muir. My blog is Reflections on Film and Television at Blogspot, but you could just do a Google search on John Kenneth Muir because that's a lot of gobbledygook.
Yep.
You can find me on Twitter at JK Muir. And I haven't really updated my website, my Yahoo website, like 10 years. So don't look for me there. I would just say the best way to do it is through Amazon or to do a Google search on me and find my blog.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this interview.
Oh, thank you.
It's been
so
a blast.
I've loved it. I appreciate you being here to see my collection and talk about this with me.
Let's go play with the eagle now.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Ben and John.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Lovely chat. Don't forget you can get John's books on Amazon. Just search John Kenneth Muir. Look at the show notes for his blog. And follow him on Twitter, JK Muir. That's JKMUIR.
Nice.
Now, next week, well, I'm not going to tell you what's coming next week, but it's a nice gift. That's all I shall say.
Is it?
Yeah.
And what about the interview?
Well, who said it's an interview?
Oh.
That's all I shall say.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. All right.
So, okay.
We'll just leave that there then. Now, do remember at home, you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You can leave us a nice review and a lovely rating to let us know how we're doing, and even copy the link to all your socials so your friends can get to hear us too. You can also follow us on Twitter. Hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we'll see your posts there. You can tag me, Richard N. James. Him, I'm Jamie Anderson, and him over there. Crikey, he's still going at it, isn't he?
He's almost down to the last centimetre of that chalk.
Well, he's gone onto the wall next to the blackboard now. I mean, it's crazy.
Chris.
That's Chris Dalek over there. Now, people have been commenting on our YouTube channel and on Twitter about the more recent podcast and Fab Facts. For example, Don M posted Graves, this is Teresa Graves, as Maya, would have been interesting and bigger than Uhuru of Star Trek, as Maya replaced a top-level command character, Victor Bergman, while Uhuru was mainly a background character like Chekhov and Sulu. So that's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it like that. James Beach says the Andersons have covered gender equality, racial equality, age and disability equality, but never covered sexual orientation, LGBT. That's something I hope will be brought into the Anderson world, says James Beach.
James Beach is already brought in Gemini Force One.
Aha, yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
So Toru Tokitani, who's one of the characters in there, is gay, and his partner is mentioned in the. In fact, it becomes a key part of the story. There you go.
The Dude says, I still watch this show, 1999, from time to time. The show it's perfect for rebooting, he says, if done correctly, meaning staying faithful to the old material. In fact, even a sequel on their Descendants on the Moon would be great.
Ooh.
Well, that's nice, isn't it?
There's a lot of scope for all these things, isn't there?
Yeah,
huge amount.
Some of which, of course, you're exploring on the Big Finish audios.
Okay, couldn't possibly say, but yes, perhaps.
Ian Dealey says, I wonder if John Kenneth Muir is going to get the Big Finish Space 1999 audios. I would definitely recommend them.
Well, there you go. I'm sure he will. Of course he has.
Yeah. Keith Gooch, another great episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast, he says, with all the usual cheeky banter / gubbins between Richard and Jamie. An interesting fab fact about an alternative casting for Maya in Space 1999. Good second part of the interview with John Kenneth Muir. Good work, Ben Page. And an interesting randomizer review this week with the Thunderbirds episode, alias Mr. Hackenbacker. He says, surprised that Chris Dale doesn't like this story. Chris, you're not alone, but it may be a gender thing. The fashion thing was a turn-off for me too. Keep up the good work, and looking forward to next week's episode already. And finally, Cool Guy 5058 says, I agree with Chris Dale. Most scenes with Lady Penelope are very slow and boring and could completely wreck an episode. It's controversial, isn't it?
It is controversial. I couldn't possibly comment.
But my favourite comment, really, from this week is from Natasha Romanoff. This is all one word. Constantly enjoyable.
Ah.
All one word.
It's
No
also
space.
one of your middle names, isn't it? Oh, no,
that's right.
it's Neinstein. I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. So, yes, you can see all, I think, just about of our podcasts on YouTube and the Fab Facts and so on. Do comment there as well. I mean, we did a little while ago try to encourage people to move away from YouTube and listen on other apps and platforms, but they're the diehards out there still watching on YouTube, which is great. Nice to have you along. So if you comment there, I'll see them too.
Amazing.
Isn't
Please do. Yes, our postrons are amazing. Now, the thing that keeps them coming back over and over again, as so many of them say, is the randomizer.
Yeah. Oh, sure, yeah.
Now, Chris is... okay. So, he has finished. Do you know what he was doing?
Oh, yes. Now, what was he doing?
He was reprogramming the randomizer.
He was, wasn't he?
It was
okay.
I didn't realise, but the randomizer is, in fact, programmed using binary.
Yes.
Which seems like a very long-winded way to do it, but...
yeah, kind of retro, though, isn't it?
It is. That's how all these old retro machines work. Now, I don't know what he's improved, if anything.
No.
What?
What is it?
Well, he'd realised, he's just sort of mouthing to me, he'd realised that GFI, that awful Gerry Anderson pilot, which no one will ever see, had mistakenly been included in the programming.
Oh, I see.
Thankfully, he's now worked out a way to remove it. So all is well, everyone. Don't worry, you'll never have to hear or see that thing ever.
Good.
Now, let's see what he will be bringing us in this week's Randomizer. Chris is going to press his big red button, choose an episode at random and randomly watch it and say lovely, lovely things, or possibly bad things, depending on what he has to watch. Let's hope it isn't Torchy, but it's definitely not going to be GFI. Here's Chris.
Adam.
Oh no, Chris actually. Well, and Marina, of course. You been asleep again, Symphony?
Yeah, this 4 hours on, 4 hours off is sure tiring.
Oh, honey.
Well, there's no time for an inquest just now.
Indeed. You see, I was rather hoping I could convince you to press the button on the randomizer today.
Yes.
Oh, well, that was easy. Thank you.
Of course. You were just so keen and eager to please.
Oh, well, I do try. Do you think it'll get me anywhere?
I don't think so.
No, well, it hasn't yet. Right, if you'd like to tell us what we have today.
Captain Scarlet.
Ah.
I'm sorry. I feel I let you down.
Oh, no, that's okay. Depending on the episode, of course.
Place of Angels.
Nothing to be sorry about there, then. A fine episode of the series. Well, then, here's Captain Scarlet. Oh, she's gone again.
Leading the fight, one man fate has made indestructible. His name, Captain Scarlet.
So, welcome back to Captain Scarlet on the Randomizer. The last time we were here was Spectrum Strikes Back, and this time it's Place of Angels. And I'm afraid I've got to open this episode with a little bit of a confession. You see, this is not the first time that the Randomizer has selected Place of Angels. This did come up once before. You may be saying to yourself, I didn't hear it then. Well, because I didn't run with it then. It came up back in March of 2020. I don't know if you recall March of 2020. It was quite a long time ago. Little thing was happening around then, just the collapse of the world as we knew it. So I felt that proceeding with Place of Angels, a story about a deadly virus potentially outbreaking and killing lots of people, was perhaps not the best move to make at that time. And so I shelved the episode. I didn't record it, I just saw the name come up and thought, no, I think I replaced it with Expo 2068 instead. So, I mean, in retrospect, probably wouldn't have offended anybody if I'd gone ahead with it, but it just felt wrong at that time to do Place of Angels. Whereas now, a couple of years later, depending on who you believe, the virus is gone forever, or we'll never be rid of it.
So harmless.
It may look harmless, but there's enough K-14 there to kill 10 million people.
Meanwhile, we have a nice cheerful opening to this Captain Scarlet episode. These two scientists, Dr. Denton and his assistant Judy Chapman, working on a virus thingy. This K-14 stuff sounds very useful. Gonna do a lot of people in with that.
Finished. I'll just seal the liquid in the file and put it in the safe.
Is there no risk of an accident?
The file will remain sealed till after the test tomorrow. Nothing can go wrong.
Oh no. Sorry about that. Let me just take care of this. Yeah, that's an alarm. I had that put in just in case of episodes like this where that line is uttered. I always meant to get around to actually selling it to these shows because I suspect these shows could have done with that kind of alarm. Because there's Captain Black on the scene of Nothing Can Go Wrong Labs as Judy Chapman makes her way out of the main gate, flashing her security pass at the little security light thingy. But I love that. Nothing can go wrong thing. And I've always meant to do some kind of video. I probably never will because it will probably take far too long to make, of which is the shortest space of time between a character saying that and something going wrong. I don't think this episode will win, but I suspect it would be... reasonably high up in the rankings.
I've locked the culture in the safe.
Yes, Doctor.
And no one is to be allowed in here. And that includes members of the staff.
I understand.
Even me. I never want to be in this room again. Oh. We just held on an awkward shot of the Dr. Denton puppet there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Captain Black is driving a fuel truck. He's running about maybe half a mile ahead of Judy Chapman, and he's going to pull off the road now. Well, I say pull off the road. He's going to kind of pull off the road, swing back round so that he's blocking the road. Of course, it's a dark night, and this is a bit of a blind bend. So anybody coming around this corner, like Judy Chapman, chances are is going to plough into this Delta petrol lorry. Now Black is finding the optimum position to watch the carnage. Because, oh, there will be carnage. Although, interestingly, she crashes into the... Bearing in mind this is a petrol tanker, and this is a Gerry Anderson show, she crashes into it. But it doesn't explode until after we've seen the Mr. On rings go across her body. And then it's just, whoa! And it's one of those explosions that's so powerful it actually shakes the entire model set. And interestingly, I don't believe that this crash actually gets mentioned again. You would think that a huge fireball explosion very near these labs would come up later during Scarlet and Blue's investigation, but nobody mentions it.
This is the voice of the Mysterons. To prove how useless it is for you to resist, we will destroy the place of the angels.
That'll teach you. Ah, so they're in a cryptic mood this week. Not going to elaborate further on what any of that means. But going back to that shot of Judy Chapman and Captain Black standing there watching the fireball, I always find it quite... it's quite an unspoken element of eeriness in this show, where you see a Mr. On replicant watching as their original body burns in a fire. It's quite unsettling if you stop and think about it.
Place of the angels. It means nothing to me.
Not to me, but it's the way the Mysterons try to confuse us.
Spectrum's top agents.
That I don't like.
Of course. When we're in action, it's not so bad, but just sitting here.
And all the time we know that somewhere, somehow, the Mysterons are making plans to carry out their threat.
Oh dear. Yeah, the angels don't sound so much like hardened combat veterans and special agents this week, as much as they sound like sort of, oh, this is somewhat scary and mildly inconvenient for us. Anyway, Judy Chapman has returned. Her pass card has let her into the car park of Nothing Can Go Wrong Labs. Again, nobody near the labs saw that massive fireball. No one's going to record the fact that a petrol tanker went missing and clearly blew up along that stretch of road. People must just be going along that stretch of road now thinking, oh, what's all this charred wood and bits of body everywhere? Oh, well, it's not my problem. So now Judy has let herself into the lab. We saw earlier a security guard being assigned to protect the lab. He's taken the odd decision of sitting inside the testing room with his back to these remote control gripper things. And we're now coming up on one of the show's more infamously gruesome moments. Very well directed, though, because we're not really seeing the full horror of what's about to happen. As she extends both of those remote control arms towards his throat. Oh, slowly, slowly, and the music is helping as well. And then we don't have to see him grappling with them. We just see her swiftly and decisively close the lever, clamp around his throat, and presumably snap his neck. Yes, we just see the body afterwards with the head at a very unpleasant angle, and the Mysterons helpfully open the cabinet containing the killer virus.
Colonel, could the Mysterons mean by the place of the angels that they plan to attack one of the angels' hometowns?
It's a thought. Check it out, Lieutenant.
Yes, I do.
Call their families.
Colonel, there's a priority message coming through. A bacteriological research center just outside Manchester, England. They're requesting Spectrum's assistance.
Right. Captain Blue, Captain Scarlet, on your way.
SIG.
Yes, sir.
I love how the Colonel doesn't even...
and Lieutenant.
Yes.
Doesn't even wait to find out what the problem is. It's just, I'll get rid of Scarlet and Blue. They're sitting at my desk.
Hope it gives us a lead.
Clearly, I've got nobody else working for me this week. Let's just get rid of these two.
Manchester, England. Didn't Rhapsody once live there?
Yes, but you could hardly call it the place of the angels.
Oh. Well, Scarlet's not going to elaborate on his mysterious past, his time in Manchester.
Research assistant, Judy Chapman.
Doesn't sound like it was much fun.
There's an electronic check at the gates. She was the one person to enter the building this morning. Well, we've transmitted a full description to Cloudbase. We'll find her. Yes, but what then? If she breaks that file... Just how dangerous is the K-14 virus? About the deadliest culture ever developed.
And why did you develop it?
To wipe out a city of 10 million people.
You seem like a sensible fellow, and yet still nobody is asking or raising any questions about the huge, fiery car lorry crash.
On behalf of all the crew and myself, I hope you've had a pleasant and comfortable flight. We'll be landing at New York International Airport in 10 minutes.
So, Judy has hopped on a plane, and in her handbag... Naughty Files of Doom. This is a nice passenger plane that I don't recall seeing anywhere again. I suspect it's some kind of redress of something. It's got to be a redress of something.
Captain Scarlet, what's your position? We are en route to Cloudbase. Dr. Denton will follow in an hour. Is there any antidote that can be used against K-14?
The doctor says no.
One will be found, but it would take months to develop. I see. Well, we can discount that.
Interesting that Scarlet and Blue went to England, had that chat with Dr. Denton, now they're flying home.
Defense against it.
They could have carried out that conversation over the phone, I think.
Right. Spectrum Security report that the suspect, Judy Chapman, has landed at New York.
Spectrum Security! Ah.
That's great.
The name that...
Fly directly to New York.
Yes, I do.
It's almost a contradiction in terms, really, but... I like the impression you get sometimes in this show that there are more than just the captains on Cloudbase dealing with things.
Angels 1, 2, and 3, immediate launch.
It didn't happen often, and in some episodes, and I think this is probably one of them, ultimately, Spectrum Security and Spectrum Efficiency is not exactly 100% this week. But, hey-ho, that's what you get when you have a cryptic alien aggressors making mysterious threats. I always wonder, though, with this show, where the idea of having the Mysterons make a threat to announce what they're going to attack, was that done as a sort of time-saving mechanism to sort of get to the meat of the story more efficiently?
Skyborn, sir.
Right.
Or was it meant to reflect some aspect of their characters, perhaps? It's strange because in some episodes...
This is Spectrum, New York. Suspect has left the airport. Driving on Interstate Highway in Saloon. Registration 104X238.
Ah.
SIG, New York.
So 104X238, not 101X238, which is a license plate I think we've had in...
The Angels will mail...
Part of New York?
3 men have just pulled up. Gray Saloon, license number 101X238.
But this is a nice shot coming up as Judy drives her car along the road of the Angels overflying it. I think also there's a lovely publicity photo of the SPV taken on that stretch of road with the Angels overflying it. And who doesn't love SPV collection music? Again, I feel for those Spectrum agents who have to man these posts. It's join Spectrum. Protect your planet. Defend those you love. Dress up as a mechanic and don't actually do anything until somebody comes and asks you to open the door to the SPV.
She is still on the interstate highway.
We'll be turning onto the highway in 3 minutes.
Yeah, this is definitely the episode that shot of the SPV was taken from. It's a very nice shot. I think it first turns up on one of the TV 21 covers. I want to say of whatever story it was with the Kilimanjaro Observatory Network. Whoa! Scarlet and Blue have just gone through a roadblock. Oh, Black's still around, keeping an eye on things.
This is Captain Black relaying instructions from the Mysterons. A Spectrum pursuit vehicle is less than 5 miles behind you. You know what to do.
Oh, I love that as well. Captain Black just phones people up to tell them, carry on doing the thing that you already know what you're doing.
And Captain Scarlet will have visual contact with her. You're taking a tremendous risk.
Oh, Dr. Denton has been invited up to Cloud Base.
Captain Scarlet is aware of the danger. We can rely on him.
It would have been great if they'd gone from that quote to that shot of him crashing the SPV through the roadblock. Oh dear. But alas, no. So now, Judy is pulled over. SPV is still closing on her, but she is going to release the parking brake and drive the car, or let the car drive itself, off the edge of the verge, hit a tree.
She's gone off the road.
And her car hasn't exploded. Yep, they found the one car in the Anderson universe that isn't made of explodium.
Come on, let's get down there.
Yay! So now let's go and investigate the car. Make sure there's no viruses spilled anywhere.
Quite a mess.
Yes, and if that file's broken...
I'll be so cross. Oh, interesting shot. They've left the SPV door open.
There!
For any Mysterons to hijack. Yep, there's a load of broken glass and some red fluid on the dashboard. Looks like the file was broken. Although it was only actually relatively recently when watching in HD that I never understood what that shot was actually meant to convey. They looked like...
Everything ready in Cloud Base sick bay, Lieutenant?
Red crystals to me.
Treatment will begin as soon as our 2 patients arrive.
This is fun as well.
Sealed in an isolation capsule at the scene of the crash.
We can safely assume that Captain Scarlet will be immune to the bacteria. But everything must be done for Captain Blue. Dr. Denton is already at the...
Poor Scarlet.
Supervising the spraying of...
I mean, poor Blue if he's potentially infected, but poor Scarlet as well. You could cut to him, with blood pouring out of every orifice, as the horrible virus has some unforeseen effect on his Mysteron physiology. It doesn't kill him, it just renders him permanently bleeding. But yeah, that was an interesting shot there. Having lost the voice actor who plays the voice of our Doctor, we now have a rare story where we have a medical situation. We need someone to give the medical situation, and Colonel White has to ask that question of Lieutenant Green while Dr. Fawn is just leaning on the back of Green's chair. Because he is, and also is not, a character in the show anymore.
Commencing test schedule.
Oh.
Thank you, Doctor.
Poor Dr. Fawn. So, Dr. Denton is securing a little testing dome near the site of the crash. They've sprayed all sorts of foam all over the countryside.
Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue installed in the sick bay, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Their automatic software updates have started now, Colonel.
Fine, thank you, sir.
I love that, installed in the sick bay.
Dr. Fawn is working on a possible anti-serum now.
Hey.
Any news of the girl, sir?
I'm afraid not. She's vanished. We're back to square one.
How long do we have to stay in isolation?
Well, we'll know in an hour if that broken test tube did contain the K-14 virus.
Meanwhile, Colonel White has sent Captain Ochre, Captain Magenta, and Captain Grey out. Oh, I'm sorry, what? Oh no, we're gonna act this week like we're the only agent Spectrum has. Okay.
No possible doubt. All the tests negative.
Ooh.
Are you sure of this? Yes, Colonel. The test tube did not contain the K-14.
Colonel sounds a bit put out by all this.
Cloud Base at once.
What happens now, Colonel?
We've been fooled.
Again.
We must locate that girl. Put out a red alert. I'm going down to the sick bay.
SIG, Colonel.
I need some drugs. Why are they not using the other captains? I know Scarlet's your man and...
You shouldn't come in here, Colonel.
It's all right, Captain.
Oh, Colonel's wearing his hat.
You mean that girl still has the virus?
Yes, she's vanished. With enough K-14 to kill 10 million people.
If only I had more than 2 men to do anything.
3 hours.
So now...
Still no trace, no clue.
With that dead end having
Place
led
of the
nowhere...
Angels. I still can't figure out where the Mysterons mean.
Our brains trust have gathered round Colonel White's desk again to just remind each other of the fact that they haven't got a clue what's going on.
She certainly gets around. Reported to be in Miami, Los Angeles, and now Goose Bay, Canada.
Los Angeles?
Ooh.
Did you say Los Angeles, sir?
Come on, put it together.
An unconfirmed report from a Californian state customs official.
That's it. Don't you see? Los Angeles means the angels.
Oh, right.
Of Los Angeles.
Has anyone ever pronounced it that way?
Of the angels.
We're on our way, Colonel.
Oh, see, that's why you should have brought Captain Magenta in on this earlier, because he did that whole Tiempo time thing. He would have got to the bottom of it. But it is very strange. This is a global security organisation, but they are behaving in this, life and death, potentially millions of people dying, and we're just going to pretend that we've only got 2 guys.
Any further reports, Colonel?
Yes, Captain.
The suspect has been seen driving away from the city.
Even if you just mention them in dialogue, say that one is pursuing another lead and the other one's doing this and whatever, just some acknowledgement.
Would be to introduce it into the city.
Otherwise it makes the organisation feel incompetent.
It's water from the Colorado River.
And I'm sure that's not intentional.
For the city's main reservoir at the Boulder Dam.
I'm sure this is just to make Scarlet and Blue the heroes and the focus of the story, which you can still do with mentions of the other captains, following up similarly useless leads. But, no. Not in Colonel White's world. Some weeks we have lots of agents, and sometimes we have 2 agents. And there's nothing in between. Anyway.
Where's the nearest landing strip to the dam?
We're now heading to Boulder Dam.
Too far. We'd never make it in time.
What do you intend to do?
It's a long shot, but we've got to take it.
Yeah. Scarlet's got a plan as Judy approaches the dam over the Colorado River. And she's going to take out the virus file. Ooh. And this is a very tense, exciting ending that we're coming up on here.
Take over the controls, Captain Blue. Fly over the dam at 500 feet.
What are you planning, Captain?
I'll have to parachute onto the dam.
From 500 feet. You'll never make it.
I've got to make it.
And that's all there is to it. Yeah, this is a nice image as well of the SPJ cruising across the dam, and Scarlet, he has to eject, so his ejector seat is coming down very slowly on a parachute, which obviously makes him a very easy target for Judy Chapman, who of course has a gun because she's a Mr. On now.
There it is ahead.
Where? Oh, yes, that damn thing with all that water. There he goes.
Spectrum.
Oh, no. That's something else I love as well, when Mr. On agents see a Spectrum agent coming after them, even though they knew Spectrum were after them. Oh, Spectrum! I wasn't prepared for this. Oh, maybe she was prepared for this. She has her gun. And of course, the Spectrum uniform tunics in this show, unlike the CGI show, are not body armour. They are just, cloth material. Oh, he's down. Nice to get this reuse of music from the first episode as well, from the car view. She's raising to throw it.
You are too late, Earthman.
One move, and I shoot.
Oh, yeah, a slightly derpy-looking shot of Scarlet there as we close in on his face. But he did shoot. I don't think he got her. She just. Oh. That's chilling. I can't really explain what happened there. She broke her heel when she stood in a sort of grate thing, which caused her to lose her balance. She's gone, fallen down the side of the dam, but the vial is on the very edge of the dam. Oh, and this is a proper anxiety moment. It's resting on a tiny little bit of rock. Scarlet's reaching for it. His fingers are grasping. He's not really got enough room to maneuver, and then his finger just brushes the vial. Oh no! Oh, he's caught it! Oh, every time that gets me. Every time. That just... It's probably the most genuinely unbearably tense moment in this show. But he's got it. He successfully retrieved it, and then... Ah!
Captain Scarlet, come in,
if that was
Captain
me...
Scarlet.
If I'd just retrieved the vial...
It's all right, Colonel.
And then your epaulets start flashing, the noise starts going, and you've got the Colonel yelling in your ears, I would have dropped that vial. But Scarlet, unlike me, Scarlet is a real man. We're holding on a glory shot of him for an exceptionally long time. Everything's sorted now. And that was Place of Angels. The city of Los Angeles has been saved. They only have to fish one Mr. On woman out of their waters, as opposed to, lots of dead bodies caused by the virus. Of course, we know now that people of Los Angeles wouldn't necessarily, or people of anywhere really, they wouldn't all necessarily feel compelled to not drink the water if the the river had been poisoned, a lot of them would be saying, well, I know my rights, I'm going to swim naked in that river. Anyway, that was Place of Angels, and there's a phrase that I've come to use quite often with episodes that I feel are good but not great, and that is, it's a solid B-grade episode. I feel I'm in danger of overusing that phrase now, but I definitely feel that is a solid B-grade episode of Captain Scarlet. You know, it's nothing spectacular, it is a thoroughly average episode of the show. But I think because the average quality of this show is so high, it really speaks volumes about just how good this little 25-minute instalment of the show is. Also interesting as well that the CGI show would tackle a very similar story in Touch of the Reaper. It's interesting to compare this one and that one, but we're not here to do that today. We're just looking at Place of the Angels, and on the whole, it's another thoroughly enjoyable episode of Captain Scarlet.
Captain Scarlet.
Woo! Love it. Very nice.
Yeah. Nice one, Chris. Thank you very much. We love a bit of Captain Scarlet.
Always.
All the straight-laced Colonel White, or Colonel Purple, as I was calling him earlier on.
Or Buzz Aldrin, as you didn't call him earlier on.
I'm so embarrassed about that. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I was only I saw Mummy A, #Mummy A earlier on, and what's that thing on with Ken Bruce on Radio 2 where they do the questions thing?
Mm-hmm. Popmaster,
Yeah, I was doing really well today on Popmaster.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay, you should enter. Go
Cool
on.
Shaker and the lightning seeds and all sorts of things
well,
today.
that's your era, yes.
Yes, it was quite 90s slanted, but
yeah, there you go.
But you see, sometimes my general knowledge is good, and other times it fails me. So how embarrassing!
Cooler Shaker. That was Crispin Mills, I think, was the lead singer, who was the grandson of Sir John Mills, one of our most esteemed actors.
Is that true, or have you just made that up?
It is. I shall leave that for you to find out.
I'm going to go look it up immediately after this.
There you go.
Now, shall we wrap up?
Yes, let's wrap up.
Okay. We haven't asked for a while, but please review the podcast.
Oh, yes, please.
Doesn't take long. Just, hit 5 stars or however many stars you think they're worth. Write a few words that, will make you happy or sad or joyous or whatever. And submit it. We'd love to see.
Yeah.
And we'd love to read them. Share it with your chums and email us with your thoughts on the date for the live recording, and if you would like a Gerry Anderson Life Uncharted scrapbook, to podcast@gerryanderson.com.
That's it. Easy.
Oh, is that it? We done?
I think we're done.
Woof. What a relief. I'm just mopping the sweat from my brow. Let's bid these lovely podstrons farewell, and we can see them in 191 when we don't have to worry about the noughts or the zeros or the O's.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about the noughts.
Easier. Oh no! Curses!
Oh, I wish I'd mentioned now. Okay, we'll see you.
That's torn it.
See you next week, Postron. Sorry.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
She's got a sneeze coming, potentially.
Oh, have you?
Oh.
You need to look into the light. Does that work with you?
I am. What's they called? A photic? Photic sneeze?
Is it photic sneeze?
Photic? I don't know.
It's
gone now after all that.
You should.
So unsatisfying.
It is. But if that works for you, looking into a bright light, that precludes you from being a fighter jet pilot.
Oh, that's a shame. I was going for an interview next week.
I know. So it's not going to work.
No. Okay. Well, that's really good to know. Anything else medical that you can let me know that precludes you from things?
Well, it doesn't preclude you from anything, but only some people can roll their tongues. I don't think that stops you being a fighter pilot.
I heard a thing. Can you roll your tongue?
Yeah.
So if you do that...
I'm doing it now. That's silly, isn't it?
You poke it out, and you touch the left-hand side of your tongue with your left hand on that side of your body, where do you feel the sensation?
On my tongue?
Yes. Well, a lot of people, even though it's now on the left, they feel it on the right-hand side of the tongue.
Yeah. Do
you get that or
it's
not?
It's like crossing your fingers, isn't it?
Yeah. Then touching.
Interlocking your fingers and then someone touching.
I mean, this is really not interesting at all. Should we just stop talking?
It's just because it's getting awkward.
It's also difficult to talk when you're touching a tongue on the wrong side. So
that's true.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to.
All right. Okay. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.